All right, welcome back to All Cars, y'all. I am John, and this week it is time for another Motorweek retro review. This time it is the 1989 Subaru Justy ECVT. Now, if you have forgotten about this vehicle or honestly never knew about it, you could be forgiven because this was a miserable, cheap little vehicle. And it was really famous for one thing, well, two, being underpowered and an early CVT. And when you think about big automakers, Volkswagen Group, whoever, they struggled to make a CVT that was efficient and reliable and didn't annoy people. It took them a long time to get it right. I have one in my car. I'm completely satisfied with it. But this was Subaru doing one in a very underpowered car. And it wasn't good. It was like really bad. I saw this listed on the Motorweek channel and I just had to see it. I expect zero from this, honestly, but I just had to see what they had to say about it. So come on a trip with me, grab your cup of coffee, let's go see.
Possible by Lucas Oil, TireRack.com, and RockAuto.com.
The auto industry advances pretty quickly. It seems there's always another new product right around the corner. Subaru has introduced its share of innovations, mostly related to four-wheel drive automobiles. Now Subaru is introducing what many industry analysts consider the automatic transmission of the future. It's available in the newly restyled Justy and goes under the acronym ECVT.
Well, and they weren't half wrong. CVTs never quite took over the way I thought they would. My first one was a Audi, I believe, back in the day. And I loved it. Now, granted, in hindsight, it tended to hit an RPM and just kind of drone there, what people really complained about. But I'm a little surprised that I think we've seen a move back to regular transmissions. And I think that the move to EVs is just kind of making the whole discussion just kind of irrelevant. But, you know, provide a few extra degrees of efficiency, a couple more miles per gallon. But this is an early one. Let's see what they say.
ECVT stands for Electronic Continuously Variable Transmission. Simply, the ECVT system uses a metal belt and two variable diameter pulleys to transmit power, rather than relying on fixed gear ratios.
And I think that Subaru, if I'm working from memory here, guys, I think that Subaru actually had an earlier version of this that actually used a rubber belt, because I seem to remember that it had reviews of it said it had a very rubber band feel, and it actually had a rubber band in it, but also that it had a very short life expectancy. I want to say it was 30,000 miles. I don't remember. So this one's saying it has a metal belt. I want to say there was an earlier version of it than I'm remembering.
With the engine running at an almost constant speed, the belt slides between the two variable pulleys. Each pulley consists of two halves that move either towards or away from each other. This movement...
Okay, can I just interrupt and say how amazing 1989 special effects were? That was state of the art.
forces the belt to ride each pulley at the proper spot for the required ratio. The result is a shiftless feel that should appeal to drivers who spend a lot of time in heavy traffic and are annoyed with the low-speed jarring of regular automatics. Power for this unique drivetrain comes from the Justy's proven 1.2-liter three-cylinder engine. It pumps 66 horsepower and 70 pound-feet of torque through an electromagnetic clutch into the ECVT and finally to the front wheels.
Okay, so the Geo Metro before the Geo Metro.
It pulled our test Justy from 0 to 60 in 12.5 seconds. That's a full second faster than the manual transmission model that we tested last year. The quarter mile ended in 19.4 seconds at 70 miles per hour.
Okay, so first off, let me jump back here. They didn't really give a good pause for us to talk about the styling of it. You know what? I think it's okay. I love these dorky hatchbacks, and this absolutely fits it. I kind of like it in a non-pretentious kind of way. That acceleration, the fact that the ECVT is faster than the manual is really surprising to me. But consider that quarter mile took nearly 20 seconds, and they only hit 70 miles an hour. So consider that on a flat surface, if you were trying to merge on the interstate, you would need 20 seconds to get up to speed. That's pretty slow.
Unlike the up and down bobbing of a regular automatic's RPMs, the ECVT's revs jump quickly to the 3,000 range and stay there throughout the run. A sports setting is also available. It keeps the RPMs at 4,000 for quicker engine response, but we notice little difference. The transmission smoothness is offset by a loud, raspy engine. The little three-cylinder thrashes quite a bit when pushed hard. There's nothing harsh about the suspension, however. Extensive changes have produced a Justy that handles and rides as well as cars costing thousands more.
You know, this thing, honestly, sorry to interrupt again, guys, that thing looks for all the world to me like an early version of the Dodge Colt. Not the back of it, but the front of it. I've never noticed that before.
Grip is excellent, and the power steering provides plenty of feedback. All in all, it's a much more competent car than last year's model. Even emergency maneuvers require a good deal less adrenaline. The back end feels light, but front wheel plow keeps you out of trouble. The Justy seldom loses its grip or composure. Larger tires on most 89 Justies have a lot to do with that. The brakes have received an upgrade as well. Larger front disc and rear wheel cylinders allow the Justy to stop in 125 feet from 60 miles per hour, a good result. Fade is non-existent and pedal feel is good, though the right rear wheel locks up occasionally and the nose pulls to the right in hard stops. One of the greatest advantages that Subaru claims for its ECVT-equipped car is improved gas mileage. The EPA rates the automatic Justy at 34 city, 35 highway. Our test car delivered a consistent 35 miles per gallon in all kinds of driving conditions.
Not bad, yeah. I mean, granted, this is a 30-some-odd-year-old car and engine management. Not much car here and not much engine, so honestly, in a world of hybrids where you can go buy a Ford Maverick that gets better gas mileage, that doesn't wow me, but 35, honestly, that's really good. But again, there's just not much car here.
By the way, 5-speed manual and 4-wheel drive Justies are still available. The Justy has certainly changed for the better, and not just underneath. There's also sleek new sheet metal to replace last year's boxy styling. The Justy is also growing. It gains 6 inches in length and 1 inch in height for 89. The result is a cabin with more headroom and a higher grade of trim. Sound insulation has also been upgraded.
So, initial impressions here, I dig the seats. I like these seats a lot. I like two-tone seats like this. But, you know, gosh, I don't miss the 80s and the move to front-wheel drive and eliminating the need for the transmission tunnel left automakers with all this space that they didn't really know what to do with. And as we see later, they built it up to make it into something. And in this time period, what they did was they just put everything low. I mean, look how ridiculously long that gear shift lever is. It looks stupid. I'm sure it works fine, but I mean, it's as long as my forearm. It's just, you know, I don't know. I'm looking back at it, and I never really liked it back then. I don't like really long gear levers to begin with. And the idea that they could have come in here and underneath the dashboard made a little shelf and put something else right there, put some of the audio controls or the HVAC controls right there and built everything up just a little bit. They didn't have to make it claustrophobic. They didn't have to make it small. They could have just built it up so it had some sense of style. The rest of the dashboard is 80s cheap Japanese. Let's face it. I mean, this could have been a Mitsubishi. It's very generic is what it is. It's got, I see a little Honda over there. I see a little Toyota over here, square vents. It's just very, very basic, but built to a price point, right?
Interior sound is now a very reasonable 67 decibels. The 89 Dash is a more efficient affair than last year's, with larger, clearer controls and a new steering wheel design. Gauges are large and easy to read. The cluster is a bit sparse, but a gear selector readout for the automatic transmission is a welcome addition. Seating comes in the form of comfortable cloth-covered buckets. The manual adjustments are basic, but a good driving position is possible. Heat and ventilation are controlled by 4 well-marked slide controls. A separate button controls the optional air conditioning. An AM/FM radio is standard in our GL grade car. It's a much more modern unit than the one in our last Justy. The ECVT shifter looks like any other automatic shifter, but this one has an annoying quirk. It's so light and vague that our test drivers found themselves constantly overshooting gears. A shift lock is provided for extra safety. Rear seating is surprisingly generous for a small car. It's a squeeze to get in, but quite comfortable once you're there. A split folding seat back allows access to the cargo area. That space grows by 1 cubic foot this year. There's plenty of luggage room and liftover is low.
I'd like to say that luggage area is pretty good, honestly. I don't know, I expected it to be a little less, little shallower. That was pretty good, not bad.
The Justy is a vastly improved car, and the price reflects that. Our GL grade car now starts at $7,251. The ECVT transmission is a $540 option. Our test car totaled $8,556. By comparison, a comparably trimmed Honda Civic hatchback will cost you more. But like the Justy, it does make very efficient use of minimal interior space. On our safety check, the Justy passes with new rear shoulder belts, but lacks front passive restraints and anti-lock brakes. Hit start with the ECVT itself. It's the smoothest automatic transmission we've ever used. We also like the all-around performance improvements, sharp new styling, better interior, and excellent fuel mileage. Misses include the vague shift lever, noisy engine, and mediocre braking stability. Subaru deserves a lot of credit for upgrading a fairly new model so quickly. Many larger car companies would have tread more cautiously. As for the success of the ECVT, that remains to be seen. Both Ford and Fiat have marketed this type of transmission in Europe with only moderate success, but neither is as sophisticated as the Subaru system. The Justy itself looks set for a long and happy life as one of the best values in the subcompact class.
That was cool. So, oh gosh, now I want to drive one, honestly. I mean, these are, I don't think they ever sold well. I don't remember ever really seeing many. A few here and there. The weird people that bought Subarus. Interesting, they said it's the smoothest transmission they have ever driven. That's really good. And they didn't make any kind of comment about rubber bandy feel, or while they talked about it hitting 3,000 RPM and then just staying there while you accelerated, they didn't complain about it, in spite of the fact they were talking about the engine not being very refined. They may have been handling this a little bit with kid gloves, trying to soften their words, right, and not be negative about it. But overall, it was a very positive review. It's interesting they compared it to the Civic. I have never considered the Justy in the same class as the Civic. I don't see it. You know, a base level Corolla, a base level Toyota, maybe, a Tercel. There we go. But a two-door hatchback, I don't see it. I don't see it. Something maybe from Suzuki would have been more comparable in my mind. And from that perspective, I think I trust Subaru more. I think I like the Subaru more. Not very refined, but super, super cool. Now, because I like these little mental games, if I went back to 1989 and I only had $8,500 to spend, yeah, and I needed to buy a new car, ooh, I don't know if I'd get this. I really don't. Number one, it only has two doors. I am a four-door guy. And I think that getting a hatchback and getting only 2 doors, it kind of ruins the whole thing. But if you want efficient, capable commuting, and that's all you needed, yeah, this looks like an awesome option. I'd love to see one again and be able to experience it, because I just don't remember much about it, and I don't remember ever seeing many, at least where I was. Maybe they were more popular up north, and so certainly the all-wheel drive options. But what a cool trip down memory lane, because when I think back to the 80s and early 90s, yeah, I can guarantee you the Subaru Justy never pops up. I'll talk about the Metro before I'll talk about this thing. So, cool trip down memory lanes. Appreciate y'all being here, guys. Let me know your thoughts below.